You could say that monsters exist. They're not boogeymen under the bed or creepers in the closet. The real monsters are the negative parts of ourselves that we let grow far too large. The ones that keep us from being happy. These beasts are not evil or meant to be slain. It's not even possible to fell them. To completely remove our negative feelings is to remove our humanity. Without the bad, there can't be the good. These beasts are meant to be kept in check in a healthy way, not destroyed. You can't permanently erase bad emotions from your life. We all have them in varying degrees. What matters is balancing the many parts of ourselves so that none of them completely consume us. Welcome to Games for Healing, the web series where we look at video games dealing with themes of mental health, life struggles, and life lessons. Today's game takes the difficult parts of ourselves and personifies them as large, imposing monsters. Let's take a boat ride to the Sea of Solitude. It released in 2019. It was developed by Joe-Mei Games and published by EA under their indie game program called EA Originals. It has the heart of an indie game through and through. They later revamped the game and re-released it as a director's cut. The director's cut features several upgrades over the original, including a rewritten script, a new cast of voice actors, a photo mode, gyroscope controls, and improved cutscenes and animations. This time it was published by Quantic Dream. You can find the original game on PC, PS4, and Xbox One, while the director's cut is exclusively on Nintendo Switch. That's the version I played, and the version that this video will be about. It's clearly meant to be the definitive experience, so let's look at it at its best. The creative director, Cornelia Geppert, said that this is a game injected with the experiences of her and her friends. She even goes so far as to say that it's the most personal and artistic project she's ever worked on. Connie has done a fantastic TED Talk about Sea of Solitude and life. I made sure to watch it after I beat the game. If you played the game and left it at that, there'd be a lot left to interpretation. You'd probably be a bit confused about some things, which is a good thing. It's good to consume media that makes us think. For those who seek the definitive answers regarding the game's allegory and metaphors, they're spoken directly from the creative director's mouth. What I pieced together just from playing is that the Sea of Solitude itself is a place of mental exploration, a phase of someone's life where they have to be at odds with their personal demons and keep moving forward. As the name suggests, it's a solitary place, a place of loneliness that you go to when you have nobody to turn to. What I didn't know is that the sea itself is made up of the tears of our main character. This is Kay. Her loneliness and internal struggles have turned her into a monster. A pretty cool looking monster if you ask me. The world around her is all in her mind. The weather is affected by her emotions. You'll see the sky change based on the context of the story. During a few points, she parts the sea, which I think symbolizes pushing through her sorrow and moving forward. Kay has turned into a red-eyed, feathery humanoid monster. Parts of herself and the way she views the people closest in her life have taken the forms of monsters as well. These inner feelings have taken these forms majorly because of Kay's loneliness and isolation. Loneliness has a way of accelerating festering feelings. Someone who is vulnerable might be especially vulnerable when they're left alone with their thoughts. Our protagonist is completely naked aside from her backpack. The backpack is very bright and definitely makes it easier to see the all-black character we're playing as in darker settings. There's more to it than just being bright though. Her backpack is literally her emotional baggage. As you progress through the game, Kay will store more and more darkness in her backpack. It will continuously grow larger and heavier, eventually making character movement more difficult. This keeps up until the game's climax, where it can't be contained and ignored anymore and explodes. The game begins as Kay wakes up in her sea of solitude. She meets a girl who looks like a younger version of herself. This is a personification of her joy. Joy is always off in the distance and just out of reach for Kay. This younger version of herself teaches Kay how to use light beacons. These flares of light can be thrown out at any time, and they'll show you exactly where you need to go. Their light is bright, much like the raincoat of Joy herself. The game's creative director has said that the coat makes her resistant to the rain of tears that make the ocean. I think that the meaning behind this beacon system is that things will always be okay as long as we stay true to ourselves and seek out the things that make us happy. As long as there's a flare of joy to follow, we can keep going. It's a simple waypoint system given metaphorical meaning. This is the projection of Kay's self-doubt. Self-doubt will block Kay's way and tell her to give up. She'll tell Kay not to get close to anyone, as it risks getting hurt for everyone involved. The only way to get past her is to shine light on her. Just like in real life, we need to shine light on our problems and acknowledge them to work on them. Using these beams of light makes Kay sound like she's in pain. Facing our personal demons can definitely be painful. The design of self-doubt is an even more monstrous version of Kay with a shell. Having a shell shows just how much she wants to protect and shelter herself. With enough light, you'll be able to get her out of that shell. You could say she's a hermit in two ways. The main antagonist in the game is the one that lurks in the water, constantly stalking you. This is self-destruction, which takes the form of a formidable sea monster. She's always there trying to consume and drown you in the ocean of tears. As long as you have the light on your boat to keep her away, she won't be able to get you. But when the light is gone, you'll have no choice but to get in the water and swim to the next piece of land as fast as you can. It's very tense. These have been all of the parts of Kay herself. Then there are the projections of her loved ones. Her little brother Sonny is endlessly bullied at school. Kay regrets not noticing how bad things were getting and not stepping in to help. Sonny is depicted as a giant bird creature, to show how all he wants to do is fly away and hide from the world. To get to him, the player has to make their way through a school full of bullies and experience his struggles firsthand. Kay's parents have a lot of issues. Her father is some sort of lizard monster who can push you away with hot air, showing us how much force words can really have. His chameleon-like tail might suggest that he camouflages his feelings. Her mother is a Medusa-like figure with tentacles for hair. I think that all of these appendages represent how much effort she uses to hold her family together. The parents fight a lot. We get trapped in the middle of one of their skirmishes. They don't even notice that Kay is being hurt in the middle of things until she breaks down. The boyfriend of Kay appears as a majestic white wolf. Upon closer inspection, we see that he's just masking himself physically and mentally. Each time Kay gets close, a piece of the mask comes off. Underneath the strong wolf exterior is a depressed dog. This is similar to how if we put on a smile and ignore our mental health, what's underneath that smile will only get worse. Even Joy ends up turning into a monster when she turns into obsession. Obsession over Kay's boyfriend, clinging to him and his disguise for happiness in an unhealthy way. Each of these characters gets a resolution in Kay's mind. She learns to always be there for her brother. If somebody close to you tells you that they're being bullied, it's very important to support them. She learns to see her parents not just as parents, but as people who need to make the choices that make them happy. Their relationship just isn't sustainable and only remained for the sake of the children. We see them decide to separate not only for themselves, but so that they can be better parents. She realizes that her relationship with her boyfriend is unstable. They both need to take the time to work on themselves rather than spending time hurting each other. She discovers that self-doubt was just trying to protect her, but got out of hand. Joy is something that Kay realizes she can depend on. Joy helps lighten the load of the emotional baggage on her back. Kay, self-doubt, and joy all work together to bait out self-destruction. In the climax of the story, self-doubt ends up being fed to self-destruction. We'll see what that resulted in shortly. With the storm of conflict subsided, our main character finds herself in a luscious green area. Her and all of the different parts of herself embrace. The two monstrous versions of herself are now small and manageable. Shrinking down the harmful parts of ourselves takes time and effort. Self-doubt becomes healthy doubt, the kind that keeps us away from genuine danger rather than holding us back. I think that the positive form of self-destruction is modesty and humbleness. Things that don't hurt ourselves but keep us self-aware of our flaws and shortcomings. Joy is something that is at its healthiest when it comes from multiple sources. There are many parts of life that can elate us. Putting all of your eggs into one basket can be dangerous, especially if that basket is a person. After the embrace, Kay wakes up as a human again with her backpack gone. She swims to shore and runs along the beach as the credits roll. The last line spoken is Kay saying, "Let's go." And that's the end. After the credits roll, the Sea of Solitude gets a new visitor. The blue eyes of this figure are clearly meant to indicate that this is Kay's love interest, who is going to go on his own mental journey. Perhaps everybody has their own Sea of Solitude, a perilous place to traverse during difficult times in life. What's yours like? What kind of monsters live there? I hope that you can make peace with all of them and find your way to the beautiful sunshiny beach. I think that Sea of Solitude is a beautiful piece of art with a lot of soul in it. Looking at it purely from a gameplay perspective, the game is pretty basic and doesn't do anything special. It's perfectly serviceable, functional, and accessible. That's all it really needs to be to convey this deeply personal tale. All it's missing is some extra polish that would do wonders. Things that you can do include jumping, swimming, climbing ladders, riding your boat, interacting with some things, and setting a flare. The gameplay loop boils down to you letting a flare loose and following it. Go there, now go here. There are obstacles along the way to avoid, and they certainly are creative. The obstacles are the monsters and what they represent. Along the way, if you decide to explore, you'll find messages in bottles which are Kay's diary entries. She'll read them out and they'll give a bit of extra insight into her life. There are also seagulls scattered throughout the game, which you have to shoo away. Getting them all doesn't really seem to do anything besides let you see them fly through the scenery. There's a built-in game achievement system here for completionists. Collecting all of the bottles and birds will give you these achievements if you decide to seek them all out, but there isn't really much of a reward for them besides the journey. My assumption is that this built-in achievement system exists as a substitute for a console-based achievement system. The Nintendo Switch doesn't have one of those. I'd say that the gameplay is average with the way it feels and how much depth there is to it. The presentation and spirit, on the other hand, absolutely rise above. This is the first game made by this team. What they've done here is impressive. The music of Sea of Solitude is beautiful and fitting. Lots of soothing melodies and dramatic ones as well. There are even some vocals. At the end, there's this really nice song with lyrics. The visuals are bright and stunning. The setting is based on Berlin, which is where the dev team is based. Everything pops and jumps off of the screen. The various different lighting and weather effects are gorgeous. The character designs are all cool and have a lot of thought put behind them. Most things have designs and functions that serve as metaphors. Some people might say that some of these metaphors are a bit on the nose, something that I don't have a problem with at all. But here are a few problems that I have with the game. I think that the built-in achievement system is immersion breaking. I checked the settings to see if I could turn the notifications off, but it wasn't possible. I'm the type to turn them off on PlayStation and Xbox. It feels a bit odd when you're in the middle of a serious plot moment or just finishing one, and you get a congratulations for it. The quality of the voice acting varied for me. Most of the voices in the game feel very real. They're very convincing performances. I had no trouble taking them seriously, and the game clearly wants to be taken seriously. The same can't be said for me when I heard the voices of Sonny and his bullies. They sounded a bit too cartoony compared to the rest of the game. I think that the bullying sections would have hit a lot harder if they had gotten some talented child voice actors, rather than adults putting on child voices. The voice lines of the bullies and later on the younger versions of Kay that follow her are very repetitious and could use some variations. They just say the same lines on repeat during gameplay. Lastly, every time you shoo a seagull, the game reminds you that there's a photo mode. I think a single tutorial at the beginning would have been enough. It's harder to enjoy the scenery as the seagull flies when this prompt is always on the screen. I do like the photo mode though. This is the kind of pretty game that deserves a photo mode. The flaws of this experience are more than made up for by the positives. I'd say I'm glad I played Sea of Solitude and that I'd recommend it to anybody who likes games like this, or anybody dealing with any of the subjects that the game tackles. It's a story of self-recovery that I think everyone can get something out of. The game won't take too much investment to beat either. It's 3 to 4 hours long. Sea of Solitude was made by a small team of people, which makes it even more impressive. I'm not sure how big the team was for the director's cut, but the original version of the game was apparently made by only 12 people. To the people who made this game, thank you for sharing your stories and framing them in this interactive experience. This game is one of many steps forward in video games being used for self-exploration and mental health. Games that can not only provide fun and stress relief, but also help people in other ways. Parts of ourselves can manifest as powerful inner demons if we let them. Monsters. But we can keep them in order. We can prevent the monsters from growing and becoming too strong. We also need to shed light on these parts of ourselves, so that we may understand them better. We can shrink the monsters down until they're manageable, or hopefully not even noticeable. We can also put positive spins on them while they're kept in check. Like how instead of having self-doubt, we can have healthy doubt, a normal defense mechanism. Get to know each monster in your Sea of Solitude so that you can understand yourself better. Coming to terms with things, being aware that you have problems, learning about them, and taking action are all important parts of healing. Look inside of yourself and what's going on inside, and also look at your relationships and how they affect you. Always know that you don't have to carry all of your baggage alone. There are surely people in the world that are willing to give you some help with the weight. Remember to follow your joy. Follow the things that make life better for you. Keep the things in mind that Kay learned about her relationships. Stand by those close to you that struggle. Remember that your parents are actual people and not just your parents. To parents themselves, everything you do affects your child mentally. Remember that romantic relationships probably shouldn't continue when two people just keep on hurting each other, or if they both really need to work on themselves by themselves, or if a person becomes far too dependent on another person for happiness, possibly to the point of unhealthy fixation. As far as mental health goes, it's sink or swim in this sea of tears. If you end up lost and lonely, I hope that you can find your way to land. That's all for now. As a wise character once said, just keep swimming. Until next time, I'll see you later. Stay strong out there.